We've just got to the end of day 9 of the Undercover Policing Inquiry, Tranche 3, Phase 1. We've been hearing from the Undercover Police Officer, James Thomson, who has, he's been giving evidence all day. This afternoon we've heard a great deal about his trip to Indonesia, about the beginnings of details about Operation Lime, his relationship with Ellie. I'm joined with Eveline Lubbers of the Undercover Research Group. Eveline, what have you made of what we've heard?
It's been a long day, and there's loads of lies, and I don't remember, I don't recall, I accept that. The interesting bit is where he starts to build the story about Operation Lime, like insinuating that his friends and colleagues L1, L2, L3 were responsible for the plan of getting a gun in France and then kill the driver that who is called L5, who run over L4. So this would be revenge. And even Barr said these were they were animal rights activists, and they were like small crimes they did, but nothing else. It's quite a leap to come up with the idea to kill someone, and Barr is really trying to get to the bottom, like who came up with that idea first, who were you talking to when the idea came up, where were you, who were there, and he just keeps saying, I can't remember. I suppose it was those two, or maybe someone else. And Barr went sometimes he speaks like an activist. Even he said, if you would have a plan like that, you do know who you talked about it, who you discuss it with. It's not like maybe I talked to X and maybe I talked to Y. It's like it's a really serious plan, and the security is very important. So he, it's such a weak story. While we all know that he made it up to sort of prolong his deployment, he didn't want to go. So I'm quite amazed that he didn't make. He didn't build a better story about that. And it's sort of, he comes across as really weak on this, and really sort of, like specific things he really remembers, but then there's nothing to remember if it never happened. And Barr is really like, who were there? Where were you when you talked about it? And he claims he doesn't remember all of those things, which is very unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely unbelievable. I mean, I think it also should be added in the context that there is no contemporaneous reports from the time, where there are no surviving reports at all by James Thomson. The only documents that reference any of this are some internal documents. One of them called the French Connection, continuing this hilarious sort of internal culture they had of naming things after songs and films and so forth. Interestingly, when presented with this report, the French Connection, about this supposed threat to kill, it was asked of him when the idea of going to France to get the firearm came from, and he said, it would have been after this report. Which, I mean, the report's called the French Connection. James, get with the program, come on. He really gives the impression of someone who's making up as he's going along. I mean, we had the questioning about the trip to Indonesia, which was to meet with L4, essentially, supposedly to kind of get his blessing for this supposed murder plot. He said there was no appetite from L4 for any such thing. But like the detail around that is so much better. I mean, part of the problem with James Thomson's evidence, and the reason why it's so incredulous and nonsense, the stuff he's saying about this murder plot, is that at other times he is very precise, but it all just disappears completely. I mean, I can't stress enough of how he's been talking generalities. There's so much that he's been saying is like, we said it, where was it said? Somewhere near where they lived. I mean, he can't even. I mean, he doesn't even have the good grace to come up with like a really basic lie.
Yeah, and there's also he had a lot of detail about Indonesia, but also it was like very vague who paid for his flight, because he was told it was planned for just after 9/11. So when 9/11 happened, there was certainly a time of a few weeks where it wasn't a good idea to fly. It was like so unclear what had happened and what more was going to happen. So I can imagine, like police saying, well, nah, let's not go to Indonesia now. But he he kind of admitted that he had this like nice holiday in mind, and he took Ellie, and he just wanted to go ahead. So they forbid him to go. He had already bought tickets. He promised his boss to sort of reimburse them or return them to the flight operator, to the travel agency, and he was asked whether, did you do that? Yeah. I can see myself handing in that ticket and getting the money back. Well, he then says that he paid for himself, to buy the ticket and to buy the ticket for Ellie. Well, I think it was in the evidence yesterday. I'm not quite sure, but there's people who are sure that the trip was paid for. The trip was paid for by the funds that was, people paid into to help L4 getting better. So it's like, even with that, he could have easily said that, I don't know. He's just lying through his teeth, and then this like really weird disconnection between things he sort of sees in front of him, remembers very clearly, and then essential things that he doesn't remember, or just doesn't come up with a believable story. Even like if you are James Bond, or if you are like, you see yourself as a a good undercover. Come on,
Yeah, lie better, James. Lie better.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Come up with a good story. And then the main thing from today, like the entire day, is the weird way in which he can't remember things, but then says if it's not even just when it's in the report, it must have happened. He also says, like, if Wendy or Ellie wrote it, I accept it. Or, I can't remember it, but I accept it. And yes, it was sexist. Yes, it was. I caused pain. I caused trauma. So that makes it extreme. His evidence extremely slippery. Like it's like if you just say can't remember or you deny it. It's in a way it's easier than the slippery. I admit it. I'm human. I realize now that I caused trauma and I abused women.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly when we heard a lot about his relationship, though not sexual, with Wendy in the last couple of hours, and he claimed not to remember so many details about her life. I mean, the fact that she was 17 when he first met her, he would have been in his mid 30s. So I mean, one of the main topics really that she talks about is the fact that she was living with her mother. Obviously, she was a child. Her mother was dying. Her mother went on to die, and he was very supportive of her through that whole thing. He inserted himself as really the inner circle of her support network. He claims he couldn't remember that. He couldn't remember the fact that her mother was dying. He couldn't remember the fact that he supported her in such a significant way for her life. And I mean, like, I think this is an area where he's not actually lying. He's just incredibly callous. And he had no real thought for other people's feelings. And he purely saw it entirely through the lens of what he wanted and what he was looking to get out of it. I mean, he even said at one point that... I didn't remember that. Couldn't remember the fact that he supported her through her mother's death. But I would have taken that opportunity to get myself into her trust. We would have taken that opportunity, and that was a real sign. That was a real moment, I think, of us. Of like kind of showing the kind of man that he actually really is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and also Bar put it to him that like he should have stepped back, and let one of her real friends play that role, or be so supportive of it. Yes, he said, I accept that.
Yeah, I mean, it was like very, very similar to the situation with visiting L4 in Indonesia. You know, it was put to him that maybe he should have allowed a real friend to go and give support to somebody who was obviously so incredibly vulnerable at the time. I mean, he was like, well, I mean, he was willing to accept. I mean, it kind of felt like anything that Barr suggested, he was willing to accept because it just made it easier.
Yeah, and he claims that they stayed with at his house all the time. And I think Ellie remembered, like, they didn't stay there very long. He didn't have much contact at all. And they moved on. They traveled on. And she had the feeling like, okay, we went here all the way to support him. And what we ended up doing was holidaying. And it also makes it sound like, he wasn't that good a friend of L4. And like with all that money spent of sending, like seen from the friends, the group of friends, like sending someone to support him, he was hardly there.
Yeah, no, he once again, he kind of quite insultingly and like offensively talked about a genuine friendship with L4. There's no real sign of that. And obviously that wasn't the case. He was an undercover police officer. He had to be reminded once again he was an undercover police officer. There was nothing genuine about any of the relationships he had with his targets. These were people that he was targeting, he was reporting on. But yet he continues to spin this fiction. We've heard it from other undercover officers. The idea that there was something genuine, something real about some of the relationships they had. Obviously that's complete bullshit.
Yeah, especially with him. Like I don't know, we say it all the time, like, it can always get worse, like he was such a lying bastard, manipulative, abusing women and admitting to it now, where you go like, no idea of the trauma he caused. Like, well, we've heard from Ellie and Wendy that he kept in touch with her until 2018 after his first meeting with the inquiry. So he was manipulating her all the time, and we shouldn't forget that.
Yeah, we haven't got on to what he did to Ellie after his deployment ended. We haven't fully gone through what happened in Operation Lime. There are 3 more days of evidence. We'll be back tomorrow with more from James Thomson. He'll be back again on Monday. He'll be back again on Tuesday. So there's a lot more to hear from about him. Anything else you want to add?
No.
So yeah, we're back at 10 a.m. in the morning. I'll be doing a Twitter Spaces this evening. I'll be making some short videos, a short video about what we heard from James Thomson today. I don't know what that's going to be about. I hope people are finding these short videos useful. If you're able to share them, I mean, they attempt to be sort of like something you can show to someone who hasn't been following the inquiry at all, just like a little potted story of something that I've learned today. I'm trying desperately to find new ways of kind of raising the profile of the inquiry and the story that we're hearing from it. So if you're able to help that in any way, please do. Thanks for joining us. See you tomorrow.